The red dust of xylos got everywhere. It coated boots, clogged machinery, and filled the air with a fine rusty haze. Dr. Evelyn Reed coughed, the sound swallowed by the immense, silent canyon. For 3 months her team had been digging here at Site Gamma, chasing whispers of the IX, a long-vanished alien race. So far they had found little more than crumbling walls and shattered pottery. Hope was running out. The university back on Earth was threatening to cut their funding. Evelyn felt the pressure like a physical weight. That afternoon, a young geologist named Tom called her over. His voice crackled with excitement through her earpiece. "Evelyn, you need to see this. I think we found a door." Evelyn hurried over. It wasn't a door, not exactly. It was a seamless, circular slab of a strange, dark metal, unlike any other material found on the site. It was set into the canyon wall, almost invisible until you were right on top of it. There were no handles, no keyholes, no visible markings. For the next 2 days they tried everything. They scanned it, prodded it, and even tried to gently tap it with lasers. Nothing. The slab ignored all their attempts. It was as cold and silent as the day they found it. Mark, her second in command, threw his hands up in frustration. "It's a dead end. A fancy paperweight. We're wasting our time." But Evelyn couldn't let it go. Something about it called to her. That evening, as the dim red sun began to set, casting long shadows, she found herself alone by the slab. Everyone else had gone back to the main camp, defeated. She placed a hand on its surface. It was surprisingly smooth and cool. She let out a sigh, her breath stirring the dust at her feet. This was it. Their last real chance. Failure felt inevitable. In a final, foolish act of frustration, she leaned her forehead against the cold metal and whispered, "Please." As if in answer, a faint, deep hum vibrated through the rock. Evelyn jumped back. A hair-thin line of blue light appeared around the edge of the slab. With a sound like a deep sigh, the massive circular door split down the middle and slid silently into the walls. Evelyn's heart hammered in her chest. She fumbled for her flashlight and stepped inside. The chamber within was vast and dark. Her light beam cut through the blackness, revealing walls covered in intricate, unfamiliar carvings. In the very center of the room, on a raised dais, stood a single plinth made of pure, black obsidian. It was perfectly clean, untouched by the dust of ages. She approached it slowly, her boots echoing in the immense silence. The plinth was featureless except for one flat, smooth area on its top that seemed to gleam in her flashlight beam. There were no buttons, no screens, no controls. Her team's scanners would find nothing. Their tools were useless here. The answer, she felt, was not in technology but in something else. Remembering the door that had opened to her touch, a wild idea came to her. It was unscientific, a shot in the dark. But it was all she had. Taking a deep breath, she pulled off her glove. The air in the chamber was cold. She raised her bare hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "This is ridiculous," she muttered to herself. But she did it anyway. She placed her palm flat onto the cool, smooth surface of the plinth. For a second nothing happened. Then the entire chamber exploded with light. Symbols and lines of script she didn't recognize flashed across the walls and ceiling, moving too fast to follow. They swirled around her like a storm of knowledge, a language lost to time. Evelyn stood frozen, her hands stuck to the plinth, her eyes wide with awe and fear. The symbols began to slow down, their shapes shifting, morphing. To her utter disbelief, they rearranged themselves into letters she knew. They formed words in perfect modern English. The light focused into a single bright sphere in the air before her. A voice, calm, clear, and synthetic, spoke. It had no source, yet it was everywhere, filling the chamber and her very bones. Biometric and genetic imprint confirmed. The voice paused as if in reverence. "Welcome back, Founder." The voice faded. The brilliant lights dimmed to a soft, steady glow. Evelyn stood frozen, her hands still pressed against the cool obsidian. The words echoed in the silent chamber. "Founder." It was impossible. A burst of static crackled in her earpiece, followed by Mark's frantic voice. "Evelyn, what's happening? Our sensors just went crazy. Are you okay?" She couldn't find her voice. She slowly pulled her hand away. The moment she broke contact, the lights in the chamber flickered. A soft warning chime sounded. "Please maintain contact for full system synchronization," the calm, synthetic voice said. It was polite but firm. Shaking, Evelyn put her palm back on the stone. The light stabilized. "Oh, I'm okay," she finally whispered into her comms. "You all need to see this. Now." Minutes later, Mark, Tom, and the others stood at the entrance, their faces pale with shock. Commander David Briggs, the head of site security, pushed his way to the front, his hand on his weapon. His eyes scanned the glowing chamber for any immediate threat. "What did you do, Doctor?" he asked, his voice tight. I'm not sure," Evelyn replied. She looked at the sphere of light. "It calls itself the Steward. It knows English." "Impossible," Mark said. "It must be some kind of telepathic translation." "Language matrix adaptation complete," the Steward stated as if answering him. "Communication is optimized for the Founder's cognitive patterns." David Briggs took a cautious step toward the plinth. "Identify yourself. What is your purpose?" The Steward ignored him completely. There was no response. "Hey, I gave you an order." Briggs snapped. Evelyn took a shaky breath. "Steward," she said. "Answer his question." "This unit is the Steward of Xylos, a guardian of knowledge," the voice replied instantly. "My primary purpose is to await the return of a founder and reactivate the network." "A founder of what?" Evelyn asked. "Of the 9 guidance protocols. Of the foundational knowledge. Of the cradle." The words meant nothing. Evelyn tried a different question. "Who built you?" "The 9 civilization built this facility," the Steward answered. "Then why do you call me founder?" "I am human. We only just discovered star travel." "The 9 did not achieve sentience independently," the Steward explained as if it were the simplest fact in the universe. "They were uplifted. Their language, their science, their architecture, all are derived from a primary source. You are of that source. Your genetic and cognitive imprint is a 99.97% match to the founder template." A stunned silence filled the chamber. The IX, the most advanced aliens humanity had ever found, were not the originators. They were students. And humanity was the teacher. "Show me," Evelyn commanded, her voice stronger now. The sphere of light dissolved, replaced by a complex, 3-dimensional star chart. It showed a galaxy filled with thousands of glowing points connected by shimmering lines. A map of an immense empire. One point at the very edge of the map glowed with a soft, pulsing blue light. The Steward zoomed in on it. It was a star system with 8 planets. The 3rd planet was highlighted. Evelyn's blood ran cold. She knew that system. Everyone did. "The cradle awaits your return," the Steward said. "Shall I plot a course?" The destination was Earth. The journey back to Earth on the Starship Odyssey was a blur. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by a heavy, silent tension. Evelyn spent most of her time in the small lab they had set up around the Steward's core, which they had carefully moved from the planet. The machine's black plinth now sat humming quietly in the center of the room, connected to the ship's power by a web of cables. It only responded to Evelyn. To everyone else it was a silent, dark rock. David Briggs often stood by the door watching her. His suspicion had softened into a watchful curiosity. He was a soldier, and this was a puzzle he couldn't solve with a gun. The corporate liaison, Lisa Campbell, saw it differently. She saw a product. "Do you understand what this means?" she said to Evelyn one day, her eyes bright with excitement. "We don't just have a new discovery. We have the master key. We can patent 9 energy systems, their materials. It's the biggest payday in human history." Evelyn ignored her. She was focused on the Steward's records. "Show me the beginning," she had asked it. The hologram that appeared showed a familiar planet. But it was different. Ice crept down from the poles. Cities were buried under snow. It was a dying pre-FTL Earth, desperate to survive. The Founders faced extinction, the Steward's calm voice narrated. Their solution was not to leave their world, but to send their essence ahead of them. The hologram changed. It showed 1,000 small ships, like seeds, being launched into the blackness of space. They were called Genesis Arcs. Each one carried the basic blueprint of human life and knowledge. Most were lost. One found a world with the right conditions. It nurtured the seed. It guided its growth. That world became Ixia. That seed became the 9. Evelyn finally understood. They weren't gods. They were gardeners. They had planted a seed and left, not knowing if it would grow. And it had. It had grown into a magnificent, galactic empire that then vanished, leaving the garden for the original gardeners to find. She walked onto the bridge where David was looking at the stars. "There are children, David," she said softly. He looked at her, his face serious. "What?" "The 9. They didn't find us. We made them. A long, long time ago we sent a message in a bottle. And it was received. The weight of it settled on them. This wasn't just archaeology. It was a family reunion a billion years in the making. Humanity wasn't young and new to the galaxy. They were the ancient, forgotten ancestors of one of its greatest cultures. Lisa Campbell's voice broke the moment. She was on the comms with her bosses on Earth. Absolute ownership of the derived technology. The patent office will have to establish a new category. Evelyn and David exchanged a look. The universe had just given humanity the most profound truth imaginable, and some people only saw a way to get rich. The steward's voice spoke from the lab, calm as always. Course to the cradle is set. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. Awaiting further instructions, Founder. Evelyn looked at the viewing screen at the peaceful stars. She wasn't just a scientist anymore. She was an heir. And she had no idea what she was supposed to do with a billion-year-old inheritance. The blue and white marble of Earth grew larger in the viewing screen. It was a sight that usually brought cheers to the crew of the Odyssey. This time there was only a tense silence. Their arrival had not gone unnoticed. The ship's comms system was flooded with messages from United Earth Government. They were loud, confused, and demanding answers. Odyssey, you are ordered to stand down and prepare for boarding and quarantine. Explain your unauthorized transmission immediately. The transmission was the steward's doing. As they neared Earth, it had begun broadcasting its evidence on all frequencies. It was sending out the history of the Genesis Arc, the rise of the IX, and the genetic proof of humanity's role as founders. It was telling everyone all at once. Panic was spreading across the planet. The story was too big, too strange to be a hoax. On the bridge, Lisa Campbell was furious. You've ruined everything. You've made it public. We could have controlled this. Evelyn stood her ground. It's not a secret to be controlled. It's a truth that belongs to everyone. Commander David Briggs watched the dozens of military ships now moving to surround them. His own people. They're not just going to let us waltz in, he said to Evelyn. They're scared. They do not recognize the authority of the new founders. The steward's voice chimed in from the lab speaker. Shall I clarify the chain of command? Before Evelyn could ask what that meant, the steward acted on its own. A deep, low hum resonated through the ship, not through the air but through the very fabric of space itself. It was a sound felt more than heard, a single powerful note that shot out from their ship towards the stars. For a moment nothing happened. Then the scanners went wild. All across the solar system things were waking up. Silent, hidden satellites near Mars powered on for the first time in millions of years. A dormant space station orbiting Jupiter lit up like a Christmas tree. An entire fleet of ghost ships, hidden in the asteroid belt, began broadcasting ancient IX identification signals. The steward had not asked for permission. It had simply announced to its sleeping network that the founders were home. And the network was answering. The UEG ships stopped their advance. Their commanders were too busy dealing with 100 new impossible contacts appearing on their scopes. The crew of the Odyssey watched in awe. They were no longer just a single ship. They were the center of a waking army of machines. But the powerful signal did not go unheard. At the edge of the solar system, space itself twisted and tore. A rift of violent purple energy opened. From it slid ships of a design never seen before. They were angular, dark, and looked cruel. They moved without sound, quickly and with purpose, heading straight for Earth. Alarms blared on the Odyssey and every UEG vessel. The new contacts were hostile. They were attacking everything, the waking IX relics and the human ships alike. David Briggs was instantly at his station. Battle stations. All ships, defend yourselves. They're targeting power sources. Evelyn stared at the screen at the terrifying new ships. Steward. What are they? Who are they? The AI's response was chillingly calm. Scans indicate reclaimer technology. They are the ancient enemy. They believe the IX were extinct. Our activation signal has drawn them. They have come to scavenge what remains. The reclaimers began their attack and space around Earth became a battlefield. Humanity's sudden inheritance was now a target. Chaos ruled space around Earth. Human ships, brave but outmatched, fired everything they had. The reclaimer vessels absorbed the blasts or dodged with terrifying speed. Their own weapons fired back, beams of dark energy that silenced human ships with one hit. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Commander David Briggs shouted orders, trying to coordinate a hopeless defense. Focus fire on that lead ship. Don't let it get closer to the planet. It was no use. The enemy was too strong. Evelyn watched the screens, her heart pounding. She saw a UEG ship break apart, its lights vanishing. These people were dying because of her. Because she woke something up. The 9 defenses are not responding efficiently, the steward observed calmly. Their programming is logical but predictable. The reclaimers have adapted to it. That was it. The problem wasn't power. It was thought. The steward and the 9 machines fought like a computer following steps. The reclaimers knew all the steps. Evelyn made a decision. Steward, give me full control. Link the network to my commands. Not my voice. My thoughts. A cable snaked out from the console. Direct neural interfaces ready, founder. The burden will be great. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She plugged the cable into a port on her chair. The bridge, the battle, everything vanished. She was suddenly everywhere at once. She could feel the humming of every IX satellite, the silent drift of every hidden ship. It was a vast, silent orchestra, and she was the conductor. It was too much. The information was a flood, threatening to drown her. She couldn't think like a machine. She had to think like a human. She didn't see a fleet of enemy ships. She saw a swarm of angry bees. And you don't fight each bee. You disrupt the hive. Ignore their weapons, she thought, her mind racing. Target their engines. Not to destroy. To confuse. The IX network obeyed instantly. Dozens of small, fast drones changed course. They weaved through the battle, not firing a shot, and sprayed a strange energy mist onto the engines of the reclaimer ships. The effect was immediate. The enemy ships began to drift, their precise formations falling into disorder. They started bumping into each other. The reclaimers were thrown into confusion. Their predictable enemy was now acting in a way that made no sense to them. David Briggs saw the opening. Now. Hit them now. All ships, fire at will. Human weapons found their marks. The disabled reclaimer ships were easy targets. One by one they were destroyed. The lead reclaimer ship, seeing its fleet falling apart, turned away. It shot back toward the purple rift it came from. The others followed, fleeing from the chaos the humans had created. As quickly as it started, the battle was over. Silence returned to space, broken only by the distress calls of damaged ships. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Evelyn unplugged the cable. She was exhausted, her hands shaking. The view screen showed Earth safe and whole. The steward's voice was different now. There was a new tone in its calm sound. Not just obedience. Respect. The reclaimers are in retreat. The cradle is secure. Standing by for new instructions, founder. Evelyn looked at David, at her crew. They were all watching her, their faces filled with relief and a new kind of awe. She wasn't a god. She was just a person who had solved a very big problem. She took a deep breath and smiled a small, tired smile. Okay, she said. Let's go see what else is in the attic.